Good morning, students. Today, in this class, we'll continue the Unit 1 of Software Engineering again. The rest of the topics we'll discuss here. In Unit 1, we have previously discussed about life cycle models. There are many of the life cycle models, and regarding which we have already given some points, headlines. And today we'll go to discuss about a specific life cycle model, that is classical life cycle model. In classical life cycle model, what benefit you are going to get? As we have mentioned that the life cycle models are giving you the overall idea, the knowledge, the technique, how to perform the software development activities in a planned manner. And your classical life cycle model is also a type from that. And in classical life cycle model, you can go sequential execution of operations. And the classical life cycle model is also referred as classical waterfall model. As it executes sequence of activities, the steps, the phases, the stages of software development are executed in a waterfall type. As your water falls from top to bottom, from higher power level to lower levels, similarly this life cycle model executes its stages of execution as a cascade of waterfalls. The classical life cycle model is a life cycle model that proceeds linearly, sequentially from requirements analysis to design, coding, testing, integration, implementation and maintenance phases. These are the several phases those we have to execute for a particular software to develop, and all these activities are sequentially executed here. This model is also referred as linear sequential model, as the linear one by one operations are executed. When one is completed, then the next will start. Then when the second work is over, the third work will start. In this manner, it will move. And your life cycle models give you many of the benefits. Out of many benefits, your life cycle model has the features of providing you the knowledge of executing the collection of requirements very well, find out the designs for a specific activity very well, perform the coding activity in a planned manner, run each unit after other unit, test when all your informations are converted into a code, perform integration testing in order to find out the combined effort of the operations. And when all these works are done, your life cycle model gives you an idea of reaching at an effective system to be submitted to the customer. In a classical waterfall model, you have such activities, those are performed in a simple, consecutive, step-by-step manner. And your simple executions help the developer to identify whichever activities are executed, whichever activities are left behind. And the execution of activities done in this model are in a consecutive manner, sequential manner. The steps are executed in order to understand the processes to be executed very well, and all the processes are reached for its destination very well. And it is also very simple to understand because it contains sequential activities, procedural activities to be performed. It is a theoretical way of developing a software. It is not practically implemented. When your life cycle model, like your classical life cycle model or waterfall model is in existence, it is clearly understood by others that as the steps are sequential in nature, it can be easily understood by everybody. And all the executions or processes done for it are simple and easily manageable and measurable. And it is a theoretical way of implementing the system. It cannot be suitable for practical software development projects. It is also not suitable for actual software development process. So if you'll go for thinking about if it is not applicable for actual software development process, why we'll read about it? Why we'll discuss about it? Why we'll waste our time in this life cycle model? Why we'll think about what are the operations performed inside it? The picture does not end here, because this is the basic information regarding the operations performed in the lifecycle models. It is not easy to understand how the models actually run and operates. It is not a simple process that systems activities can be very well understood. In order to understand the system, in order to understand its processes, in order to understand its controlling activities, the knowledge of execution of life cycle models are very important. And your classical waterfall model, in its procedural manner, sequential manner, linear manner, gives the clear and simple information, knowledge regarding implementation of other life cycle models. The learning of this model will provide you the idea of implementing all other life cycle models, understanding all other life cycle models, understanding the executions performed inside other life cycle models. And it also gives you idea that for which type of software product, which life cycle model will be suitable, if you'll have the idea about classical waterfall. As we know that for understanding any of the thing in the world, there is a basic knowledge required, basic understanding required. And your basic idea regarding using, implementing the software development models is there behind the waterfall model. So we need to read it, understand it very well. After that, we can go for other life cycle models to understand. Got it? And what is its use? The classical waterfall model is read, implemented, understood, in contact with others. So there should be some implementation of it. Its major implementation is it helps for documenting the software development processes. Whichever activities are executed, what operations are going on, what next operation is to be performed, everything is documented, kept in a document file, which procedure to be followed afterward. And all these things to be documented in a well-planned manner can be done through your classical waterfall model. So for documenting purposes, the classical waterfall model is very useful. So you can go for it, you can implement it, because documentation requires sequential step-by-step procedural information to be written in a clear-cut manner, in a serial manner. And that documentation need is fulfilled by your classical waterfall model. Got it? And let us discuss about the phases of classical waterfall model, how it performs its activities. The classical waterfall model contains the same set of activities as your software development life cycle, because the software development life cycle has several phases to be conducted one after another. And when all these phases are over, only your software product can be in hand. You can submit it to the customer after getting customer satisfaction. So all these activities are sequentially executed here. So the similar type of operations will be also available in the classical waterfall model. The stages we can view in the same manner as was there in the software development lifecycle. So the first phase of classical waterfall model is your feasibility study. The feasibility study, in what manner helped you? We have already discussed about it. The feasibility study gives the information to be collected regarding the software product, and confirmation is done here whether the software product can be developed or not, whether the required technical support, the required softwares, the required systems, the techniques, the measures, those are to be implemented for the system are available with the developer or not. Can the developer get its optimum benefit when develop the system? Is confirmed through the feasibility study. And your feasibility study when over, then we'll go for the next phase of software development. In feasibility study, we have confirmed the software product is going to be developed, and in requirement analysis and specification, will analyze the informations in a rough manner we have collected at the time of feasibility study. The real requirements are put into a document in the requirement analysis and specification page, as it was there in the life cycle model, as it was there in the SDLC, software development life cycle. In requirement analysis and specification, you will analyze the informations very well and go to the preparation of SRS document. Got it? And in the next stage, the information mentioned in the SRS document will be converted into the design. Here, the architectural design of the system will be prepared. Then the coding and unit testing of the informations designed will be performed. In the coding, your programming languages will be helpful for converting the system into real automatized system. And unit testing will execute each and every small part of the program module and test it whether it is going to perform the real work or not. Then integration and system testing combines all the unit tested modules together and test them to find out their combined effort. In system testing, the user's acceptance, the customer's acceptance, or whether it is going to fulfill all other respective needs of the system are checked. The whole system after preparation will be implemented in the system testing part, so that it will be beneficial for satisfying the customer how he is going to get the outcome from the system. And in the maintenance phase, the next most beneficial thing, that is error correction, checking, future upgradations, modifications can be possible. Let us go to what are the effort requirements for different phases when we'll use it. When the real work starts, what will be the effort requirement for conducting a particular phase of operation? So let's have some idea about it. The effort distribution among different phases we can view in a chart. We have different phases of software development. Each and every phase requires what much of effort to be provided. Let us have an idea. All the 5 phases you have, come to the point what will be the effort requirements. As you can see here, the effort requirement for the first phase, requirement analysis and specification, is very less than all other phases of development. And the documentation once prepared will be helpful for all other operations to be performed. Still, it requires very less effort to be provided. And in the designing phase, we require more effort to be given. Because in the designing phase, what will prepare, what architecture design will we have, what overall idea will have, according to that, the system will be foolproof. The system will be fully developed. Its drawbacks will be easily identified from the diagrams. So that design requires more effort to be paid. Then come to the third phase, that is coding and unit testing. It requires less effort requirement than the design phase, because in the design phase, the outer knowledge is already there, the architecture is already there, the structure is there we have, and looking at that structure, only using a particular programming language we need to write regarding it. Got it? And in the testing phase, we require more effort to be paid, because here the errors, defects, we are going to find out. The misinterpretations of the activities inside the system are find out here. Here, the deep checking for each and every part of the code block is highly required. And also the combination of all different pages is performed. After combining different pages, there should be right interfaces used, right techniques used, so that they can easily check for their collaboration, how integratedly they are going to give the result. So the testing requires little more effort than the coding. And the last phase, that is your maintenance phase, is requiring more effort than all other software development phases. And the maintenance phase find out the errors, defects, and the future requirements, and the past implementations, and the modifications at present. All these work it performs, so it requires more effort to be paid. As shown in the figure, we can clearly view that the effort required for the maintenance part is higher than all other software development phases. Got it? Then come to the stages of classical waterfall model. Those we have already mentioned regarding its points in the SDLC, software development life cycle. As shown in your diagram, figure 1, you can view the different life cycle activities those we have to perform. And in the feasibility study activity, what we perform? Here we check the constraints of the system, and we decide here whether the software product is going to be developed or rejected. Next is your RAS phase. In RAS phase, the requirements are collected in detail, and the customers are identified and modified in a the requirements of the customers are identified and mentioned in a document, which document is further going to be used for the rest pages operations. And by looking at the SRS document, you can view what are the real operations we have to perform in the next subsequent pages. In RAS, the SRS is your output, and looking at the output, we can go for the software design. Here, by looking at the requirements mentioned in the SRS document, the software architecture is prepared in order to make the coding part easier. When your design is good, your coding will be good and easier. Okay, so let's go for the next page, software coding. Here the software is converted into a automatized workable system using different programming languages as per the switchability of the software development organizations or the developer. The programming language he is comfortable with, he can use and develop the coding for the particular system. And individual code blocks prepared here will be unit tested here in order to identify the errors in the code blocks. And whichever errors are found out, those can be solved thereafter. The unit testing will execute a particular code block, and inside the code block, whichever small errors are identified, compiled, identified, debugged, and corrected. So the small code block will be error free and going to provide the good result, real result. Then the next requirement is that individually the unit has successfully tested, the unit became successfully tested that it is providing the right result. When it is going to work in combination with other code blocks, whether it is going to provide the right result or not, that can be checked in the integration and system testing part. Small parts of the code blocks became error free at the beginning, then they are checked for their combined effort here. Using the integration testing activity, then in the system testing, the final checking of the processes is done, where the alpha testing, beta testing, and acceptance testing will make the system clear that whoever have developed the product, they have tested it, it's okay, and it can be easily implemented, it can be easily going to solve the user's needs and satisfy the requirements of the customer. And when the product is developed, it is also satisfied by the customer to use at its workplace, is confirmed in the system testing part. Got it? Then in the maintenance part, the other benefits of the system will get, whether the system is highly optimal, it is upgradable, the software is not going to be closed after some time, it can be upgraded. Those are identified here. But in case of your classical life cycle model, the present situations can be controlled. The future enhancements are not much beneficial to be upgraded here because of its certain drawbacks. The classical waterfall model is sequential, linear, step by step, performing activities in a simpler manner, sequential manner. So it is not able to identify the errors, and it is not able to identify the future requirements and upgrade it into the system. This is little difficult. So let us know what are the drawbacks or the problems behind your classical lifecycle model. It is simple to understand. It should be beneficial. It should be a good point. But it, as because of its linear and sequential nature, it requires flowless work for every page to be executed, so that it requires a complete consideration and presence of mind of the software developer required that a particular page is executed, performing its activities means none of the points should be left behind. It should be operated in a proper presence of mind, so that none of the errors will be left behind in a particular phase, because here no rework is allowed. Rework is not allowed. So if a phase is executed, it's over, we have moved to next phase, and we have find that at the previous phase there was an error, so it cannot be rectified. So it requires flawless work, complete consideration in order to prohibit rework in a particular phase, which is not easy for anybody to achieve. And all requirements in a particular phase must be completed, provided in this lifecycle model. If any of the requirements we are leaving, then that may cause many other problems to arise. And in order to prohibit that, all the requirements should be collected, noted down, have a heart of information all at a once, then use it in the work. Got it? So all the requirements must be priorly identified before starting the work. And all these informations must be added while the phase is being developed. We cannot make here any of the but we cannot leave any chance. We should not leave any chance while developing a particular page in order to add the requirements into the page. The work must be completed perfectly when a page is over. It does not allow changes to a previously finished page. If some of the requirements we are leaving and some of the phase became incomplete, or some error occurred, or some misoccurrence of items occurred, then those cannot be rectified. It does not allow changes, modifications, rework it does not allow. It is unsuitable for practical, real-time, interactive software products to be developed. Due to its sequential nature and all the activities must be properly performed at every phase, it cannot be easily executed, it cannot be operated very well, and cannot lead to a practical software product to be developed. If you go for documentation purpose, it is okay. While we are writing a notebook, once a line we have written, we cannot erase it. We cannot remove it. Similarly, here we can use for the same life cycle model we can use for documenting. That cannot be erased, that cannot be removed. Then it's okay. Once it is written, means written. But real-time systems, interactive systems, practical system will not allow this type of things to occur, because those are variable in nature. For the next time period, when it is being implemented, it may require changes inside it, and these changes will lead to some many drawbacks. Got it? And your real-time implementation of software development, interactive software products to prefer, we cannot use it. It contains no feedbacking facility. Feedbacks cannot be collected here and worked for it. If a particular phase is over, we have left behind some points, we should have to make some corrections. That point we have written was a little difficult to achieve, so we'll change it to a simpler one. This type of feedbackings are not supported. If a particular phase is being operated, then the phase must be considered fully that the work is proper. Because after some that, if somebody gives some feedback that the modifications are required, then it cannot be supported. So this may lead to many of the drawbacks. As we have found that the classical lifecycle model is simple to implement, simple to use, easy to understand, sequential procedural steps are available, we are very happy that we have a very good thing. Procedural activities are done and our work is comfortable to be done. We did not have to work hard for a particular system, because sequential consecutive set of activities are there, means it is easy to go one after another. But it is not applicable for any type of product to develop. It cannot be implemented for practical projects. Almost nowadays, all the projects are practical, and it also requires frequent changes by the customers at the future. In future, whenever some software is being developed, it has a maintenance feature that in future some changes required, modifications required, upgradations required, the feedback is found regarding the system that it is not okay, then we can make changes. All these things are not supported with the classical waterfall models. Got it? So due to these drawbacks of the classical waterfall model or classical life cycle model, we cannot use it for any type of software product to develop. We can use it for documentation purposes at different places, for documenting different type of products, for documenting different processes, for documenting different stages of software activities. We can use the concept of this life cycle model. But we had to understand, know regarding the activity of the classical waterfall model, how it works and how it is going to give you benefits. So for knowing about the rest of the life cycle models and how the problems of the classical life cycle model can be removed, and the future life cycle models, those are giving us the benefits. For practical projects we can use it, for interacting projects we can use it, we'll discuss in the next respective classes. Thank you, students. I think this will be beneficial for you.